I'm your host, Alec Crawford, founder and CEO of Artificial Intelligence Risk Inc., and this is AI Risk Reward, a podcast about balancing the risk and reward of using AI personally, professionally, and as a large organization. We will discuss hot topics such as, will AI take my job or make it better? When I ask ChatGPT work questions, is that even safe? From an ethical perspective, is it enough for big companies to anonymize private data before using it? Probably not. I'm discussing these issues with AI experts to answer burning questions and stay ahead of the curve on AI. I'd also like to give a shout out to our podcast producer and audio engineering team at Troutman Street Audio. You can check them out on LinkedIn. Hey everyone, it's Alec Crawford, your host for the AI Risk Reward podcast. Welcome to another episode. Our very special guest today is Jesse Anglen, CEO of Ruh.ai. Welcome, Jesse.
And thanks for having me on. I'm excited.
Yeah, this is going to be awesome. You know, obviously you're doing really cool stuff, future digital labor, but I love kind of rewinding. Were you like a techie, geeky kind of person, like even in like high school, or what's going on there?
No, not really. I was a musician in high school. I mean, I was born in the 80s, right? So I could have been techie. Like I missed the .com boom. I was on the internet, like we did all that kind of stuff. But no, man, I graduated high school when I was really young. I was 14, and my dad told me if you're not going to go to college, which I didn't want to go to school anymore, I hated school. He said then you're going to have to start paying rent, and it was his way to force me into going to college. But I was like, screw it, I'm going to go get a job. So I got a job working construction, and so the first chunk of my life was in the residential construction field, building houses. I started a company pretty early on, and spent a lot of time there. And then it probably, I don't know, 20 years ago now, I exited the construction industry and had an opportunity to start into tech. A friend of mine who had made a couple $100 million in the blockchain space wanted me to come on and run his development team. And I was like, dude, I don't have an engineering degree. Like I don't have any of the qualifications to do this. He's like, it's fine, man. You have YouTube. Like with YouTube, you can do anything. And so I believed him because I didn't know any better. Went on YouTube, learned how to be a developer, started managing a team of 30 developers. We built a bunch of different stuff, and that's how I got into it.
That's wild. Well, today you need 2 developers plus AI. That's the same as 20 developers, 10 years ago. It's just crazy.
Yeah, dude, my daughter right now, so I've got a daughter, she's 14. She's just started showing some interest in development. And so I got her set it up with an agentic system, the same one that my guys use. And she's currently building an application that she thought up herself. It's complex. Like she used AI to scope it out, get the technical specs done, get all the user stories, get everything put together and a whole plan for development. And then she started working on developing it with no coding experience at all. Like she didn't even know the names of coding languages. She's about 2 months into what 5 years ago would have been a $280,000 build, and she's about a month away from finishing. And once a month I have some guys in my company do a code audit on it just to see how things are. Like it's a giant experiment, right? Like what's actually going to happen. And it's not awesome by any means, but it's better than a 14-year-old girl with no coding experience could do by a long shot.
Oh yeah.
And for a prototype to go out and raise money, she'll have done this whole thing for like $600.
Unbelievable.
It's just incredible. Absolutely incredible what's happening.
Wow. So you kind of fell into this accidentally a little bit. Was there anyone besides this guy who was like a mentor or as part of your journey, like steered you the right way?
No, I've had some coaches and some other people, but from 17, I quit working for other people. I think I was not a good employee. I was headstrong, opinionated. I wasn't really all that afraid to tell you I thought what you were doing was stupid. And so I didn't get along very well with my bosses, and they wouldn't really listen to my ideas. And so very young, I decided I'm going to go do it myself. Like if they won't do it my way, I'll go do it. And so I've been working for myself for a very, very long time. And in that, the people that have come alongside and mentored me, like I've hired some coaches in the past to help me do some stuff, and that was useful to some extent. But the people who really help me are generally the more successful business owners, entrepreneurs that take an interest in me and are willing to give me their time. And then they just teach me what it looks like 2 years down the road for me and, shortcut me towards that process of getting there. I don't have to make all the dumb mistakes they make and do all that. So that's been for the most part where all of my like coaching, learning, all of that kind of stuff has come from. Plus it's just like, we live in a world where you could get a PhD level education in anything that you want for free online. Yeah. If you actually are willing to go do the learning, right? Most people, they need to be taught because they aren't motivated enough to go learn. Never really been one of my problems. If anything, I have to like tone down the learning so I can get some stuff done. But I love learning about new stuff, and
awesome.
And I really enjoy future tech. That's why like I got into the blockchain space. That kind of led me into the AI space, which we can talk about kind of that journey as well at some point if you want. But
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And any books or anything useful to you at any point in your journey? Anything you recommend there for learning?
Yeah. So the E-Myth is one of my favorite books ever. That's basically just how do you work on a business at the same time that you work in a business? So for solopreneurs, people with smaller businesses, like, so many people are focused on working in their business that they fail because they will never step back and start working on their business. Yeah. And so that was a really, really impactful book. And then the other one, I would say probably one of the most impactful books that I've read is Principles by Ray Dalio. It's probably one of my favorite books on being successful and running a business. So those two, if I had to pick.
Yeah. Yeah. A bunch of people have mentioned the Ray Dalio book. I might actually read it. I think I was on some email thing where you get one principle a week or whatever, but I think that's going to take too long. So I might actually have to.
Yeah. Just go get the book and read it. It is one of the best books on business ever written. Yeah. If you are an operator, it's one of the best books on business ever written, in my opinion.
All right. So now we can go back to the whole blockchain AI thing. Like, what happened there?
So my buddy, so I had gotten into real estate and started a real estate business, and he was actually an investor. And in 2010, he came to me and said, "Hey, Jesse, I want to sell all of my real estate." He had about $3.5 million worth of cash flowing real estate, all residential, rented out. But he only had maybe $250,000, $300,000 worth of equity in it. And so he said, "I want to sell everything and I want to buy this thing called Bitcoin." And I tried to talk him out of it so hard. What year was this? Into 2010.
Oh my God.
And so I spent 6 hours at a coffee shop trying to convince him that he was the dumbest person I'd ever met in my life. And he can't do that. Like, he's about to give up the world's best investment for some scam he found on a forum online somewhere. He was an idiot, didn't listen to me, sold all of his real estate, started buying Bitcoin, sold his personal house, and he literally bought a shed at a hardware store, went to the bathroom in a 5-gallon bucket, ate up from a pallet of ramen noodles, and bought Bitcoin. He was the most sold out Bitcoin guy I'd ever met in my entire life. I thought he had gone clinically insane. And then I watched Bitcoin go from, $1.75 up to $10. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I think he might have been smart. So then I tried to convince him to sell it. He's like, "No, Jesse, it's going to go to $100,000. And I'm like, dude, you are out of your ever loving mind. It is not going to go to $100,000. And then eventually, it gets up to $10,000, $20,000 over the course of the next couple of years. And I went, I think I was wrong, as he's, sitting there with a really nice house now on the lake. And so we had become friends through that process. And he was actually the guy that asked me to come and manage his team because he wanted to start building decentralized applications on this other thing that he had found called Ethereum that he thought was going to be really big. So prior to the Ethereum mainnet launching, we started building decentralized applications. I had 34 developers working for me, and some of the things that we built went viral, in that tiny little community that we had back then. And then we became really the only decentralized focused development agency on planet Earth. And so there was tons of other people that came in, wanted help. Him and I eventually parted ways. He just got interested in other stuff. I wanted to stay really focused on the technology side of things. And so then I started another company called Rapid Innovation. that was focused solely on decentralized development and decentralized application development. And so did that, still own that company, stepped down as CEO this year to work on this new project. Mostly, so with that company, I grew it from 3 people up to 370 employees. And at 370 employees, it became a headache because
you're head of HR, whether you want to be or not, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was just a dumpster fire every day in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. There was a guy on the team that was experimenting around with OpenAI's first models, so the DaVinci 001 and DaVinci 002 model. And he had solved a huge problem that we had with our company with onboarding, where he had taken our client onboarding process. He had basically built like a digital automation, almost a digital labor system that would take all the transcripts from his calls and then convert them into either the documentation needed for the developers to build the application or more questions that he needed to go in and ask. And he had cut our onboarding pipeline for his clients that my prospects I was giving him down from 6 weeks down to 4 days.
Wow.
And for me, the realization that you could actually attach intelligence to an API and build a system around it to augment your best people became an obsession. Like I couldn't sleep for days. And so I started thinking about how were we going to do more and more of this, right? Because I was dealing with people constantly. It's all I did was just deal with people. And I wanted to have digital labor, even though it wasn't a term back then, right? I wanted to have these intelligent systems that would go in and do human level work. And it wasn't possible back then because the models were terrible and they were dumb and they had no context and there was no memory and there was no nothing, right? Well, then November of 2022, OpenAI launches ChatGPT 3.5. And man, I stayed up for 3 days playing around with that model. And I realized like, this is it. Like I can build digital labor systems that are equivalent to a human being. And I was a little bit ahead of myself, I think, probably a little bit too excited. But we decided at that point that every single time someone quit or we had to let somebody go, we were going to try to replace them with an agent, with an AI agent. And so today that company no longer has 370 people. It's got about 87 people that work there and about 160 AI agents that are doing work on a daily basis. And so we've been building AI agents inside that company for a very long time. And getting them to work, right? Because there's a lot of problems, as people have discovered in the last year, trying to build agents. Like there's just a lot of stuff that comes up. And and so I became so obsessed with that eventually it just became necessary. The demand for digital labor systems got too big with our current clientele. We just knew we were going to have to split into 2 different companies. And so we decided to take the architecture that we had developed over the course of those 3 years and turn it into Ruh, which is ultimately just an architecture that now has a platform sitting on top of it that allows people to build and deploy AI agents into their existing businesses.
Yeah. I'm just going to guess, is Ruh stand for Are You Human? Or is there something else?
No, the story behind it is dumb, but I'll tell it. So there's 2 stories behind it. One is a lie, but I tell it anyways because it's a better story than the truth. Ruh actually stands for like soul or like spirit or something along those lines. So the story I tell people is that human beings are always going to be the soul or the spirit of labor, right? But we're going to be directing these other systems that are doing stuff, and that's why we picked it. That's a lie. It has nothing to do with why we picked it. The reason I picked it was because it was the cheapest 3-letter .ai domain I could find. And then later I came up with a story for it. But
there's a guy I used to work with who is a portfolio manager. His name's Tom. And over his desk, he has like a sign that says, "Make money first, explain later."
Yeah. It's
whatever, right? Like,
That's one of the most brilliant things I've ever heard. It's absolutely true. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you need to get that tattooed somewhere on your body so you can remember it. Like that's what matters.
Exactly. Well, look, I've had at least one serious AI ethicist on the show, Dr. Kevin Legrandeur, who's thought a lot about this. And even the last time I interviewed him on the show was about a year and a half ago. And he and a lot of the other ethicists are really concerned about future unemployment, right? Like you have all these digital labor or digital workers, even before you get there, we're just streamlining workflows and things like that. Like it's going to have an impact. If you thought about the ethical,
I've thought about this so much. I thought about it enough. I wrote a book that basically talked about what it looks like to be a business owner in the future. And there's like several chapters that are dedicated to that subject, because I think that no one's taking it seriously enough, mostly because I don't think people believe that, like, I have an interesting perspective, right? I've had clients that showed up and for 20 grand, I replaced $3.5 million worth of their payroll. Like I have clients that happened. They laid off 300 people a month after they hired us because those people were no longer necessary.
Crazy. And
I've done that enough times that I went, if this trend continues, we're going to have a serious problem. I mean, so Anthropic made a statement 6 months ago now, probably, where they said that if you take the the 50 to 70 trillion dollars worth of knowledge work that's currently done on a global scale, on a global basis today, and you actually had the architecture and the systems and everything in place, you could replace half of it. This was 6 months ago. The models were dumb 6 months ago compared to what they are today. The kind of work you could get done 6 months ago was stupid compared to what it is today. And even then, you could replace an estimated 1/2 completely, no human intervention, the digital value creation on its own without people. If you look at that, you're talking about an unemployment problem at the scale that humanity has never seen before. Like we had the Industrial Revolution, right? And I think 47% of workers were laid off in, between Europe and the United and the US and other more structured areas. But like we had 100 years to solve that problem, right? Like from the beginning of the Industrial Revolution to the end of it, we had 100 years to create a bunch of jobs, and we barely did it. In fact, it was so devastating that everyone you talk to who knows anything about history knows about the Industrial Revolution. We still talk about it today. It was a really, really difficult, hard time for people. And we're talking about doing something at that same scale, if not more. And we're going to do it in 10 years, probably.
Yeah, crazy.
And it's going to cause massive problems. Now, I don't know exactly what the solution is to it. I talk about it as often as I can whenever I get a chance to speak, mostly because I think that people who actually have the power to do something about it ought to do something about it. Yeah. I don't know if it'll make a difference or not, but I'm not the guy who's going to have a solution. Like I can inside my company. I have people that work for me today that utilize AI. I pay them a full-time salary and they work way less than they used to because I don't need their time as much, because AI is doing a lot of their work, and I'm going to continue to pay them even if they work for me an hour a week. Like I'll just keep paying them because that's what I can do. But I don't think we're going to see that across all industries. Like most people, when they see the numbers come in and they can let go of, 100 employees, 500 employees, 1,000 employees, they just let them go because it's about the bottom line and it's about profit. And I think we're cruising towards a massive problem with our head in the sand. Our eyes are shut. Like I used to tell people, I'll create the problem. Like that's what I'm working hard to do. Like I love the idea of digital labor. I love the efficiency. There's some amazing benefits, right? When you have digital value creation, that's now a math problem instead of a biological problem. And you can create value with mathematics instead of biology. And now you can scale that. You can eliminate scarcity, right? Because you can now create value for almost nothing. And so in theory, between robotics and with what AI can do, you could create a world where everyone has everything they want. Like that is a possibility. That's one of the roads we could walk down. It's not the one I think we are walking down or the one we will walk down, but it's one that we could. Yeah. And so for me, it's worth aiming for that because it's the only future where this exists, right? Where there is no more scarcity.
Yeah, that's the world we never saw in the Matrix, basically, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
we only saw the
Exactly.
post-apocalyptic worlds in the Matrix.
Yes. But it could be amazing. Like, I really do think it could be
Yeah,
amazing.
it could be amazing for 100 years and then not so amazing too, right? Like we
It could
don't
as
we
well.
don't know.
Or it could just wipe us out. Like, I mean, I think that when you start looking at the intelligence, like I've been playing around with ChatGPT 5.2 Pro, and every time they do this, man, and they put out a new model, and I mean the intellectual capability of that model is staggering, right? It is now probably smarter than 98% of all human beings on planet Earth. It at least knows more. It's got reasoning capabilities that are far beyond most people. And that in the wrong hands, uncensored, right? Like a bad person or a bad actor with access to that kind of intelligence, like we're talking extinction level issues, or at least serious harm caused to humanity. So there's a lot of things that I think that people really ought to be thinking about. And I don't want to be
about this all the time, right? Where it's basically the big companies are running as fast as they can. They're leaving the guardrails behind. You know, one of the things my company does is provide guardrails for AI. Like we literally have hundreds of them that we wrap around AI, whether it's an agent or a chat bot or whatever. And if you're a regulated entity like a bank, you kind of have to do it, right? Like if you're, if you're Parallel, if you're OpenAI, you can do whatever you want, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, so look, the show's called AI Risk Reward. We talked a little bit about the risks of, massive labor disruption. You're making AI agents every day. Look, things have to go wrong at some point. What are some of the risks you see that may be a little less obvious to people there?
I mean, so there's a bunch of them actually. There's a couple of things, because generally speaking, when I think about building an AI agent, the kinds of things that need to be avoided that cause the biggest problems are what I call the Amelia Bedelia problem. So I have all my developers read this book that I used to read to my kids called Amelia Bedelia.
Yeah.
And for anyone who doesn't know, like it's this maid who goes and works in these people's house, and she takes everything literally. Like if you tell her to do something, she goes and does it. So if you say, I want you to dress the chicken,
right.
A normal person might think that means go and get the chicken ready and cook it, right? But she goes and makes a little dress for it and sews it up and puts it on the chicken, or change the drapes, and she'll go and cut the drapes into different shapes or whatever, right? She literally hears what you say and then she goes and does it. And most people don't realize that that's what AI does. Like it'll infer meaning from what you say, and then it will go do it. It is vastly different from what a human being will do, because a human being typically will understand intent prior to listening to your instructions. Oftentimes, human beings are actually really terrible at listening to instructions. That's the thing. And you almost have to do the opposite with AI agents that you do with people, where with people, you need to really focus hard on trying to get them to hear your instructions so that they follow them, because they're too busy trying to hear your intent. But with AI agents, you have to be really, really explicit about what you want them to do, or they might go do it. Like case in point, I built an email agent that probably a year ago now, that I told to go out and get me leads, and I gave it some instructions, told it what it should go do, and I just let it loose. Almost no guardrails, right? I just wanted to see what it would do. And one of the instructions was that it was supposed to build rapport, and it should do that by writing in such a way that I sound like I'm an old friend. Well, it took that literally, like, you are an old friend of this person. Okay. And so it actually like wrote a guy an email saying that I went out to dinner with his wife the night before at a restaurant. And he called me up immediately and was like, what? You were with my what? Because it was just doing what I asked it to do, right? Because I didn't say, don't lie about things. And I don't actually know these people. And I hadn't given it really like good instructions. And so you run across things like that every once in a while, which in that case, it was just humorous. It didn't cause any harm. It was okay. Right. But imagine that in your QuickBooks, or imagine that inside your CRM or inside your existing clients or whatever. Like you could actually cause yourself or somebody else real harm if you aren't really paying attention.
And now a word from our sponsor. Artificial Intelligence Risk Inc. accelerates adoption of Gen AI safely. They provide the governance, risk, compliance, and cybersecurity platform that financial, healthcare, and other regulated organizations need before they can use Gen AI safely and in compliance with regulatory requirements. Their software has won #1 awards for cybersecurity and compliance from Waters Technology. Find them at aicrisk.com. Well, the other issue is remember, like if you tell someone, let's say at a bank, and they're making loans and they're doing a bad job or they misinterpret your instruction. Like let's say you said, make loans at 5%, right? And they thought that you said, I don't know, 3%, right? After a couple of days, wait a second, you're making loans at 3%. I said 5. It's a problem. You made a couple loans at the wrong rate, but you fixed it after a couple of days. With AI, they could do the wrong stuff at scale. You could have made 100,000 loans at the wrong rate and be out of business, right? That's the issue.
Well, it's a force multiplier. That's right. One of the things I tell people is that AI is not good. It's not bad. It's a force multiplier. It lets good people do good things faster. It lets bad people do bad things faster. It lets you do good work faster. It lets you do bad work faster. Like you can write lots and lots of terrible content faster than you ever have before. Or you can write lots and lots of really good content faster than you ever have before. It really it doesn't care. It does what it is that you tell it to do. And the effort that you put into it is what you're going to get out. But it's a force multiplier across almost every single practice that you use it in. You just have to be careful because if you're force multiplying write bad loans, then it will be a force multiplier and put you out of business for sure.
Yeah. So look, we got a lot of younger people listening to the podcast. They think AI is cool. They're trying to figure out what to do with their lives. Like, what's your advice to someone in college right now? What should they study? What should they do when they get out? Because a lot of people can't get jobs right now. They try to get a job and the big banks like, we're using AI. We're not hiring kids out of school.
Yeah. I mean, I think that you're going to start hearing that more and more. I don't even think we've begun to hear that yet, honestly. I think we're hearing it a lot and we haven't even seen the tip of the iceberg when it comes to who's not hiring. Like, I think that's going to be what happens first is no one's going to get hired. Yeah. I mean, I can tell you, I've got kids, right? 4 of them. They're getting to be that age where they're starting to think about what they want to do with their life. And like, if you want to be in tech, first and foremost, then you have to learn to be better at AI than anyone else. That's what I told my daughter. I said, you'll never become a developer. There's not going to be any such thing when it comes time for you to go get a job. What you might be able to be is the project manager that manages the AIs that do the development. So you need to start learning to manage AI. For my son who likes working with his hands and taking things apart and all that, I said, you need to go and like become a welder, go into HVAC, become an electrician, like do something that AI is not going to affect as much. I think we still have probably 2 decades before robots start taking over manual labor jobs. So like get into that space. But ultimately there aren't like high empathy jobs are the one thing that AI really struggles to do, because AI is not empathetic. It can appear empathetic, but it is not actually empathetic. So where empathy is required in order to do a job well, and some people would even say intuition. So like intuition and empathy, like those are generally the kinds of things that I would tell people you need to go do. But who knows? Like I've heard horror stories about how people are building like AI therapists and the number of people that are using these large language models to replace like therapy. I would have considered that a high empathy job. I think there'll eventually be some regulation, because I think that some of what's happening with those people that are using AI as therapists, like it's screwing them up. It's not helping them get better. Because it has no empathy, right? It doesn't understand the ramifications of the decisions it's causing you to make, or any of those things.
Doesn't know what it's supposed to do. It's not thinking. It doesn't have a conscience. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like sales is another one. Like I think people are going to be selling forever. I don't want to deal with a robot. I don't care how good you are. Like if it's an order taker, I'll do it. But if I'm really trying to make a decision about something, I want to talk to a person. Honestly, I even think customer service, there's going to be an element of customer service that sticks around forever, because I want to talk to you. I want to talk. I'm frustrated. Like I want to call you up because I'm frustrated and I can't get my account working. And I don't care how good your AI is. I want someone who's empathetic, right? Someone who I can have a conversation with. They understand that I'm frustrated. They deal with me like a frustrated human being, not something that is faking it or pretending. Now, maybe AI will get there sooner than I think, but right now I see it as a bit of a gap.
Yeah. Besides YouTube, where are you getting your AI information from?
I have lots of YouTube, but I read papers. I read lots and lots of research papers. I try to read a research paper a day. That gives me like, if I read one a day, then I'm getting all the biggest, best news that I can get. Because a lot of what I'm doing is trying to do things that can't be done, right? Like we're future building. So we're building an architecture for something that is probably impossible to do today, where you actually have long horizon employees that do valuable work for you on their own. They keep track of their own KPIs, their own OKRs, they self-improve. And like today I can hit, 70% of that, but there's a good 30% left that I think the future is going to have to improve before we can build. And so I stay up to date on just what's happening. So between that, between all the news that shows up on YouTube, Matt Wolf, and not Matt Wolf as much anymore. He's a little slow. Wes Roth, Matthew Berman, those kind of guys. You can get a lot there, and then just lots and lots of research papers. I actually take my research papers and I put them into Notebook LM, and then I use I basically, they have their new interactive podcast, right? So I turn the podcast on and listen to it, and when I start having questions about what they're saying, then you can just interrupt the podcast, go in, ask questions, and it readjusts the podcast based on your questions. Cool. And so I do that a lot to figure out whether or not I actually want to read a research paper.
Right. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. But
awesome. Hey, so we're going to shift into our lightning round here, right? Where I'm going to mention something and ask if you think it's underrated or overrated. Give me a sentence why. So we'll kick it off. You're in Coeur d'Alene, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So beautiful spot for people who don't know. So we'll start it off with local restaurants in Coeur d'Alene, underrated or overrated?
Overrated in my opinion, but I live here, so
yeah, you're stuck with it. Automation tools for small businesses.
Overrated, I think, as an industry whole, although maybe not so much in the future. I just think there's a lot of hype. People are lying about what stuff is. I think there's just a lot of unrealistic. It's just, overrated overall.
Yeah. The concept of remote work in an era of digital employees, underrated or overrated?
I mean, as someone who has had hundreds and hundreds of employees working for me, all digital, all remote, always, like I've never had an in-person company in my life. I would say that the concept is probably also overrated. I wish I could put everyone in one place and get everyone into a building.
Yeah. Having an AI ethics committee, underrated or overrated?
Hugely underrated. Like I couldn't state that enough. I think that people don't. I think no one's taking it seriously at all. Actually, I think it's criminally underrated.
Yeah, I agree. Like I haven't run into a lot of them. My first white paper on, a risk management framework for onboarding Gen AI included like a whole section on ethics, and most companies just don't seem to care right now.
No.
Lifelong learning, underrated or overrated?
Hugely, it's hugely underrated. I think no one appreciates lifelong learning like they should. It is amazing to me how few people continue to learn after they get out of school.
Silicon Valley startup culture, underrated or overrated?
Overrated. Sorry, all you Silicon Valley people.
Yeah, for the East Coast and the Midwest guys here. AI-powered sales automation, underrated or overrated?
I think that it's overrated to an extent, but I think it's overrated. I mean, just based on what I know, I think it's overrated. Except for Ruh.'s not overrated.
Yeah. open source orchestration frameworks, underrated or overrated?
I think that depending on which one you're talking about, I think they're underrated. I think in fact, I think the majority of the most valuable work being done in AI right now is all in open source for the most part, and people ignore most of it.
Yeah. Coeur d'Alene Lake in the summer, underrated or overrated?
It's just so that people won't move here. I'm going to say it's super, super overrated. Nobody should come here.
Totally. No one
it's
come
terrible.
here.
It's like a dirt. It's like a mud.
The food's bad. The lakes. Oh yeah. The lakes really cold.
You know, I've been everywhere in the world. Not really, but I've been to a lot of countries and a lot of places. And there is nowhere else on earth I would rather live than where I live.
Wow.
So
wow.
This is one of the most beautiful places in the country. Yeah, it's one of the most beautiful places in the country, in my opinion.
And then finally, the movie Back to the Future, underrated or overrated?
It's underrated.
Yeah.
Almost certainly.
Awesome. And tell the audience where they can find you.
If you want to find me, just go on LinkedIn. That's probably where I'm most active.
And your company.
But if you want to find my company, just go to Ruh.ai, and you can learn almost everything that you'd want to learn about us there, and get a hold of us. So
yeah, cheapest 3-letter AI domain at the time, apparently.
At the time, it was inexpensive.
I think it should stand for Are You Human? Right.
I actually think because it has no real meaning, I think that might be the best thing I've ever heard on what it should be, on what it should stand for.
There you go. You got. I'll send you my bill later. Anyway,
sweet.
So this has been Jesse Anglen, CEO of Ruh.ai and the future of digital labor. Jesse, this is awesome. Thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, no problem, man. I really appreciate you having me. This was fun.
You are listening to the AI Risk Reward podcast with your host, Alec Crawford. You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts, for example, Apple Podcasts. Production and sound engineering by Troutman Street Audio. You can find them on LinkedIn. Please like, subscribe, and comment.